Welcome everyone to today's webinar. We generally do a couple of webinars a month, and some of them are version announcements and some are overviews by our sales department to people that are new to ClubExpress or evaluating ClubExpress as an association management solution. But most of them are deep dives into particular features of ClubExpress, mostly from the administrator standpoint. How do you manage certain things in ClubExpress? And today is one of those. But before we get into this, I want to take care of a little bit of housekeeping. All the phones and microphones are muted, so any questions you have should be entered into the chat window. And we will revisit the chat questions at the end of the demonstration to see if there are any questions that weren't already answered. And this is particularly useful for anybody who is watching a recording of the webinar. And speaking of recordings, all of our webinars and tutorials are recorded, and they are available on the ClubExpress Cool Stuff page. So if you go to clubexpress.com and click on Cool Stuff, and then click on the Webinars tab, you'll see the upcoming webinar schedule, and then a list of recorded webinars. Similarly, above the Webinars tab is a Video Tutorials tab. Here you can see the most recent tutorials that have been added. And for today, for example, although I'm doing a webinar on managing the homepage and managing custom pages, we actually have two individual videos that focus on each one of these topics, along with the page builder and managing people, new features that were implemented as of version 10. All of our videos are actually housed on YouTube. So when you see one of our videos, you can click on the subscribe button and optionally the bell notification so that you can be alerted whenever there is new content. And finally, if you're using ClubExpress, and particularly if ClubExpress is working really well for your organization, we'd appreciate it if you would go to clubexpress.com/reviews, click in one of these review sites, and leave a review so other people who are evaluating association management solutions can have the benefit of your experience. So today we're going to be talking about managing the homepage and custom pages. There's a lot of pages on ClubExpress, and a lot of pages that you don't have to manage actively. For example, if you put something on the event calendar, you don't have to go and actually update the calendar display. If you insert a new document, it shows up in document lists. So there are a lot of things that are done by modules that you don't have to update. Photo albums and things like that. People are allowed to upload photos into albums, but you don't have to build a photo album display page. The place where you have the most control are over what your homepage looks like and what custom pages look like. So your homepage is obviously the front door to your site, the first thing that most people will see when they come to your site. And custom pages are there so you can create pages for things that the built-in modules don't handle. Your mission statements, your goals, descriptions of particular events, big description of particular events, or big descriptions of what committees are working on, or who knows what you need to have your pages do, but you have control over these. And as of version 10.0, there were some new tools that were developed and revising the way some of the tools work. In the new tools, you've got revised administration screens. There are changes to the custom page manager, and the home page manager now actually puts you into the home page version manager. Any page now can have multiple versions, and since there's only one home page, we put you directly into the version manager, and I'll show you the difference between the two. There's the new page builder that determines what the users can see on a page and when they can see it. And then there's the versioning system, which is a new functionality to track and modify versions of pages. You can create temporary pages and edit them later. You can make multiple versions and then just display whichever one you want whenever you need it. And when you're in the editor and you click one of the save buttons, the system creates and stores a new version of the page. So saving a version doesn't overwrite any one you've done before. It just makes a new version, a new copy. So you can always go back to the earlier ones if you need to. And so we'll talk a little bit about legacy pages, pages that were created before the new page builder editor was implemented. And thing to note about it is that you don't need to make any changes. That nothing happens to your pages that you've had for years. But if you do want to change them, you can edit them using the advanced editor widget in the page builder. First, we're going to talk about custom pages. and managing them. And it starts with looking at categories. Then I'll very, very quickly add a page just to show you how that works. We'll look at then some of the search results, and we'll note some of the differences between looking at the results for a web page versus a version of a page. We'll show you how we edit a page with the page builder. I want to talk about the differences between some of the icons, because there are icons to view a page and there are icons to preview a page. And you can view a page and you can preview a version of a page, and you'll see the difference in a moment. We'll talk a little bit about mobile pages, why you might want them and how you manage them. A really cool thing about custom pages is that you can assign coordinators. Now, you can assign coordinators, can administer all custom pages, or you could assign a coordinator or multiple coordinators who are allowed to work on just this page or just a set of pages. So you can have somebody, if you have an event page or a donation page or something like that, you can have these 4 people that are allowed to edit that page, and nobody else can do it unless they're a module coordinator or an administrator. We'll talk about configuring pages, how to copy a page, including the new ability to, when you copy a page, to decide which version do you want to copy. And we'll talk about deleting a page versus scheduling a version for deletion. Then we'll jump into versions. We'll look at the search results there. We're going to note, again, page versus version differences, previewing pages, editing in the page builder, activating and deactivating versions for mobile, configuration and scheduling for deletion. And once we've gone through all of that, you'll see that managing the home page is exactly the same as what we've done, except there's only one page. So it goes directly into the version manager. And then we'll talk a little bit about legacy pages. I'm going to be working with 2 different clubs here. You'll note that difference between this one and this one. This is Demo Club, and you'll see that it's got this join today and pictures on the front here. But the ones I'm going to be using most of the time is this one here, Development Server Club. So this is not one that you can reach. You'll see I'm logged in as Martin Smith, who is an administrator. And the first thing we're going to do is look at custom pages. So we go to the control panel, and on the website tab, you'll see there's a link for home page management and custom page management. So when I click on custom pages, it brings me, not surprisingly, to the custom page manager. And I can search for either all custom pages, or because this club uses subgroups for regions and districts and clubs, we could limit it if we want. And I'm just going to search for all categories, and we'll talk about categories in a moment. And I'm going to search for them, and now we get a list of results. So let's talk about custom page categories. These are just little buckets that you can pages into. It's more like a flag that gets set for a page. So if I click on a custom page category, and I want to add one, I could add one, say, for fundraising. And when I add that, you'll see fundraising shows up here, and there's a delete icon next to it because there are no pages that are currently using the fundraising category. So I can't delete events or board pages because there are pages that are using them. So that's all there is to adding a category. You can click on the edit icon to change it from fundraising to donations or whatever you want to do. But that's pretty straightforward. I'm going to return to the custom page manager. I could do it from here, or I can go up to the breadcrumbs here and click on custom page manager. And so now I'm going to very quickly add a custom page. When you click on add custom page, I'm going to call this a webinar page demo. I'm just naming it A something, so it floats to the top of the list. And I could say, oh, this is in that new fundraising category. And I'm going to make it available for all the members. It's not just for a particular subgroup. And the visibility can be set to any website visitor, members only, or admins only. That means who can access the page. That's a little different than the visibility of certain items on the page. And then you can set up a thing called a quick link, where you could come over here and say webinar page demo, and then you could have your site name / webinar page demo will bring you directly to this page. And I'm going to set this as active. Active means that the page is available and can be placed on menus. Even though this page is active, you may not have activated a version of the page. So if you want to make sure that no one sees the page and it doesn't even show up on the list here, you can turn off active. And that's the reason why, if we look over here where it says active only, if I say active only, we'll show only those with the check mark in the active column. I don't think we have any here without a check mark in the active column. But you can deactivate any one by just coming over to this edit configuration, and you could turn it off so that the page is no longer available. And then it would show active with an X instead of a check mark. So we just made this new webinar page. And if we click on the versions icon, you will see that there are no versions. It is simply an underlying database record that's got no content other than the properties that we just set for it, who can see it, what the name is, and things like that. If I click on the Edit Main Version icon, it will actually create a main version and put us into the editor. That is the same as if I went into the versions and clicked on Create Main Version, because this one doesn't have a main version or a mobile version yet. These icons say create. Later on, you'll see they change to edit. So I'm just going to go and click on Edit Main Version. I'm not going to go into any detail about the page builder. We did a webinar about it 2 weeks ago. There's a tutorial about it. It's a fantastic new tool. But all I'm going to do here is just make very, very quick a new page. I'm clicking on row templates here. I'm going to use combination. I'm going to just drag events and news feed here, and I'm just going to drag half image, half text, and I am going to pull this up here, moved over to our development server, and I have to make sure that they do that. You'll notice here that when I dragged a row combination over, it's showing that the current visibility is hidden. On production sites, default visibility is everyone, because people were dragging things onto the canvas here and forgetting to set that, and then they were kind of surprised when something wasn't visible. So now this should be visible, but evidently wasn't updated on this server here. And the other thing is that you can move rows up and down by either dragging them here or just clicking on the row. If I say click here, and I can move it up. And then would simply go into the editor here, go into whatever widget I want, and I could insert formatted text and just do something real simple. This is a webinar demo. Your actual mileage may vary. And of course, you can put in different kinds of text, and you can build links and do all of that. But when I save this, we get the text here. If I come over here to the image, I can insert a different image. I could just take any image I want. Let's try that one there. And we save this one. And now it goes in here, and we can just move this back and forth. So you can very quickly drop rows in and reorder them. And some of the rows have widgets, and there's a whole set of widgets for text and images and events and news and all of that. Again, this is all covered in the help system and in the tutorials. But what happens is if I now save, make active, and exit, now if I look at the versions for this page, here's the webinar page, and I can actually preview that page here, which brings us into the page preview. And I want to show you why this is a little different than viewing a page. But here we can look at it to see what the public sees, what members see, and what administrators see. And that depends on the rights for each of the rows. So that's just a basic page builder. So let's look at the page management, and we'll come back to the page builder and versions in a little bit. But I just wanted to just let you see number one, how quickly you can put a page together and make it active and available. If I didn't want to make it available at all, again, I could come in here and take off active. And then if it was on a menu, it would disappear from menus. Let's take a look at the search results. So these are all of our custom pages. Clicking on the edit icon lets you edit the main version. Now, you can have a couple of different kinds of versions. You can have a main version and you can have a main mobile version. These are set to display differently on different devices. Most people will never need to have a mobile version because the versions that we have here, whenever you make a page, unless you do some things with the advanced editor to specifically put in tables and things like that, the default for all of the widgets that are in the page builder is that they are mobile responsive, meaning they will morph depending on the type of device you're on, whether it's in landscape mode or portrait mode. So if I were to look at this page builder demo, if I click on this, this shows me what it looks like. This is a page that demonstrates a whole lot of things. So there's a formatted text here, there's advanced text here, et cetera, et cetera. So you see these things are side by side. But if I went back and looked at that page in the previewer as a mobile version, you'll see that I've got a version that says this is a mobile only version of the page. So I've actually have a separate version of the page that the only thing I did was put this word at the top. But you'll see that all of these things now stack so that they show properly on what would be, say, a phone. It would look different on a tablet because a tablet has a wider view, unless I clicked on a tablet in vertical view, in which case it's showing how everything repositions. So this is the preview screen, page preview, which is different than viewing, because when you view, you are in effect going to the page as if you had clicked on it from the menu. So this is actually what you will see as opposed to a preview of what you would see. And when you do this, you're going to see things that are available to everyone or to members because you are logged in as an administrator. So, you can't see just the public only view of things because you're logged in as an administrator. And that's why the preview is useful, because you could see just what people that are not logged in are going to see. So when you click on view, and you'll see that this says view main version, that's different than preview. And you'll see that in the version screen, it won't say view main version, it'll say preview main version. So here you would preview as if it was on a mobile device. Here you actually view it on your website. Now, when you're in here in one of the management screens and you click on one of the previews, it opens in the same tab. But if you are editing in the page builder and you click on preview in the top here, if you click on preview, it opens in a new tab so that you can keep switching back and forth between the page you're editing and looking at that page. So that's kind of nice. Let's go back for a moment and let's go back to the control panel. So for custom pages, you can assign a coordinator or more than one coordinator who can manage all custom pages. So that's at the module level. But within the custom pages, you could say, oh, I just want a particular person to be able to manage this page. So you could add a coordinator here, and let's assume we want Audrey to be able to manage. Now, Audrey, who is not a coordinator of anything else and not an administrator, she would have a new control panel link on her site. And when she goes to the control panel, only the website tab would be open, and the only thing she'd be able to see is custom pages, and the only pages she'd be able to manage would be the ones that she's allowed to manage. So this is a great way of sort of distributing the responsibility to other people. On configuration of any of these things, this icon here You change all the things that you have when you first created sort of the bucket for the content. And so you could change the page name, you could change what it's called on the menus and things like that. You could change its category. And then that gets changed because this now says this is ballooning. There's something to note. The delete icon here will actually delete a page and all of its versions. This is different than deleting a version. If we come into a version here, say for board election, if I come into a version here and I look at the versions, I can delete a version. Deleting a version doesn't actually remove it, but it schedules it for deletion 30 days from today. So you'll see the one down here, it is scheduled for deletion 30 days from whenever you say you want to delete it. So if I click on delete this one, it'll say that here's the date to be deleted. You can also come up here and schedule for deletion all of those things that were created before a particular date. So you could just not have to click on a bunch of them. But so this doesn't actually delete for 30 days. But if we come back here to the page itself, not the version of the page, but the actual container for all of the versions of the page, if you click here, it'll give you a prompt asking you sure you want to do this? Because once you do this, it's gone. You can't recover from it. So that's an important thing. Another thing that's really kind of cool, now when you copy a page, say if I've got this page builder demo, and if we look at the page builder demo, you'll see that it's got a couple of different versions, two of which are active. One is the main custom page, one is the main mobile custom page, and we've got a couple of outdated ones here, and one that's already been flagged for deletion. So if I say I want to copy that, and I click on the copy icon, it says, okay, what do we want to call this? We'll call this a new PBD, a new page builder demo. New PBD. And it's asking me for the category and all that kind of stuff that you would expect. But now it says multiple versions of this page were found. Please select the version that you want to use for the active version of this page. And then only that version will be copied. So we could look at these and say, okay, there are 4 versions that are available that are not flagged as mobile. And so maybe I just want to grab the one that's flagged as active. And you'll see that we have these version numbers here that you can use for reference. And it says, we've also found mobile versions for this page. Which, if any, do we want to copy? So if I select this one here and I choose save, it will actually copy the page and put those 2 versions into the page. So if we look at it here, a new page builder demo, and if I look at the versions for it, it will have those 2 and make them both active, one for mobile and one for custom. So that gives you a lot of control over when you make a copy, what do I want to copy? So let's talk about versions. If I click on, say, board election here, the versions for board election, you will see that there were 5 versions that were created. And one of them has already been deleted. Maybe the original proof of concept one was deleted and was scheduled for deletion. And this one here, this version number 4, is scheduled for deletion in a couple of days. I can resurrect it by clicking on undelete, and it asks me, am I sure? And then what I can do here is I could come back here if I want, and I can mark it for deletion again. So if I mark it for deletion again, it says, are you sure you want to mark it for deletion? And you'll see that now it is scheduled to be deleted 30 days from today. So you can control each of the versions. When I do a video or a document or a web page, I'm one of these people that doesn't just keep clicking save. I click save as, save as, save as, save as. So I can go back to a version of a document before I messed it up. or before I put in some information that I didn't expect to put in, and before I deleted something that I didn't mean to delete. So I'm a save as kind of person. Well, versions, in effect, give you an automatic save as. So if I come into here and I go and edit the active main custom page, if I make any changes here, or even if I don't make changes, and I simply say save new version and exit, this will create version number 6. If I don't say make active and exit, it will be version number 6, but it won't be active. So let me just add a row here, and we'll make it, let's just make it text. And I want to insert the text here. This is text for the webinar. And we'll just make it a heading. And if I save it. Now, if I save new version and exit, I can save new version and continue, at which point it will be number 6. I can save new version and exit, or I can save, make active and exit. I'm not going to make this active because I like the original one. But if I save a new version and exit, now we should see a new version. Oh, this should have had number 6. I don't know why it said number 5, but we will get that fixed. It might just be on the development server. But this is actually version number 6. And if I were to preview this, it will come up in the preview editor. It says this is the text for the webinar, but it's not active. And in fact, I can come over here and just change the name of it to webinar demo. So you can name your versions so you can know what they were designed for. Because you might have a version that says this is our holiday version of the page, which has some widgets on there that you refresh every year. It can be very, very useful to simply say, I want to make that one active. So if I come over here, in fact, let me call this one here, this is my normal page. I can come over here and say, okay, I want to make this one my main custom page, or I want to make this activated from mobile. If I come over here and activate from main, the one that is currently active, the one that says normal, if I activate for main, the webinar demo will now become the active one. And what was here before, remember this should have been version 6, what was here before is now not going to be displayed. So if I go to preview it, it says this text is for webinar. That's the one that we're looking at. And if I were just to go back to the custom page manager and go to the board election and just view it, not in the preview, you see that it's showing this is text for the webinar, but it's not showing anything else. I thought that was kind of interesting. Why is that showing anything else? It's probably because in that version, the other rows were set as hidden. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to our normal view and activate that for main, so that becomes our main view again. So you can see that you can activate for main. If you have something that is mobile, you can deactivate it for mobile. So if you deactivate it for mobile, it means that on both desktops and mobile devices, whatever your main page will display. So the main custom page will display on all devices unless you also have one called main mobile custom page, in which case, if it's on a mobile device, it will display that version instead of the other version. One caveat to that is that on iOS devices, iPads and such, an iPad as of version 12 or 13 of iOS treats the contents of a web page in Safari as if it is on a desktop computer. So it doesn't tell the browser that you're on a mobile device. So it will just show as if it was your desktop version. So your main mobile version will not actually display on an iPad with the latest version, but it will display on an iPhone or your Android devices or your Android pads. So the icons here are for previewing the mobile version. You'll notice here this says preview and not view because it's going to open in the previewer. We've got the preview mobile version. We can deactivate for mobile. So if number 3, if we don't want the mobile version to be active, we can turn that off. So version 3, instead of saying main mobile custom page, it says mobile custom page. And I can activate it for mobile by simply clicking on this icon here. And now we're back to having these 2 active pages. Again, in general, you don't need mobile pages, but there may be cases where you know that your members have limited bandwidth, or you want to put something on the mobile page that's different than your main page. You might say, hey, we've got this special thing that we're having just for our mobile members. And one thing also to note is that the mobile page is different than the mobile app. The mobile page is what will display if you display in Safari or Chrome or whatever browser you're using. There is an optional mobile app in ClubExpress where we can take your site and make it into an app that can be placed on the App Store or the Play Store. And it lets people get into your club by clicking on an icon on their phone that's got your club name on it. And it also has some extra features like chat and meetups and things like that. We have a webinar on the mobile app, but sometimes there's a confusion between the mobile app and just viewing your site on a mobile device. Mobile apps are very cool, and those people that have implemented it are really happy with it. I think it costs about $100 to get it set up, and then your club can either pay for those people that download it, or your members can download it and pay. I think it's $2. Part of that goes to ClubExpress, and part of that goes to the club. So now that we've talked about the custom page manager and managing versions, you'll see before I leave, because we have a main version and the mobile version, now we have the edit main version and edit mobile version. Whereas when I showed you earlier, we didn't have any versions. It said create main version or create mobile version. If I say delete old versions, I could simply click on here. If I wanted to delete everything that was older than, say, 8.1, I could put that date in here, and it would flag all of those for deletion. It will not attempt to delete anything that is active. So it's just a way of cleaning up some that you know you've got a whole bunch of versions on that you don't need anymore. Let's go back to the home page. Looking at the home page here, we've got a widget at the top that talks about the board election and things like that. I'm going to jump over to another browser where we've got this other home page, because I want to show you what you see on a home page that was created before the page builder was made. So if we go to the control panel here and go to home page, you will see that this has a bunch of versions, one of which is active. And because this home page has different rows, or had different rows on it for different rights, who could see things. You could have things that were available to everyone, some things that were available to the public only. For example, a widget that says join now doesn't make any sense to show it to someone who's already joined. So that would be public only, members only, or everyone, or administrators. So here, if I click on edit, you'll see that the conversion actually created the versions, and it gave me a row here that was set. A row here that was set. Current visibility is public and members, and there was a separate row down here for members only. So the public would never see this in this particular case. And the question was, well, how do I edit this stuff? Because this is the way my existing content came in. It came in as 2 rows because in the old homepage builder, you were allowed to set different visibilities for different people, for different rows. So it was sort of row-based to begin with. So here it says Advanced Editor. If I click on this, and we're highlighting the widget, now it says I can go into the advanced editor. And here's something that was not turned on originally, and it got turned on about a week or so ago, is you see here that we've got these rows. You see this little dotted line around this row here, and then this dotted line around this row here. This was all the stuff that was in this one widget. Let's assume that these had different permissions and such. Well, what you can do now is you can click on this toolbox icon to view the sidebar here. And so this is the functionality that was in the other editor. So you can come over here and say, oh, I need to add another row, or I need to remove a row. Say if you wanted to get rid of this row, you could just delete the row, or you could reorder the rows by moving it up or down or whatever. You can also do things like, say, if I wanted to come over here, I could add a 50-50 row here, column 1 and column 2. I know a lot of ways to spell words. So you could actually add rows within rows, or rows within columns and widgets and things like that. And you could add different widgets. You could do all the things you were able to do before, but you have to explicitly turn on the toolbar to do that. So if you looked at your page and said, how am I going to edit this thing? Just turn on the toolbar here, and you can remove the toolbar here. So this just turns it on. And of course, you've got the second row of tools also. So this is really handy. So if I save this, and if I were to go to preview, now we've got the column 1, column 2, just before the recent blogs. And so that opened in a new tab, so I didn't leave the editor. I'm going to cancel this because I really don't want this column 1, column 2. Let's just cancel that and choose OK. I want to jump back to the other editor for a minute, because there is something that's a little bit cool here that I will show you, and I think we're going to maybe make either another little webinar about it, or there's a feature that's still a little ways away. But you'll notice that we have this button here called Board Election Ballot, but it doesn't look like that kind of button. And the way we did this is by clicking on Edit, and I want to go into the main home page version, because remember, it's only one page, so we go directly into the version manager. So if I go into the main home page and I click on this here, we have the actions here, but we also have the style tab. And what happens here is I have applied a style that is undocumented called Home Hero. If I delete this, now we get the normal button. But if I put in this Home Hero class, now we get this nice transparent button. I spoke to someone on the development team today, and he said that not only was it okay to show this, but we're going to try to get together a little list of some predefined CSS classes, and we will also define the classes, and also they're talking about building some new tools for being able to build predefined styles. So that could be a really useful thing. All right, so let me come over here. So Samantha, do we have any questions and comments and things like that?
Yeah, so on one of the pages, and everyone note that these are demo pages, one of the balloon photos was a little bit blurry, a little bit distorted. And so I thought maybe you could talk about maybe a couple tips for picking out good photos for your pages.
All right, so you were saying about going into, let's just go into a page. Let's go back into...
I think it may have been the page builder demo page.
All right, let's take a look here. If we go into custom pages, this one here, page builder demo.
Yes.
Let's go into the active version. Was it This one here.
Yeah. So the balloon photo and I think Jenny Cho's photo was a little bit blurry.
Yeah, well, part of it is because Jenny Cho's photo is a really tiny little photo. The original is a little tiny photo. So we could actually shrink it down. See, what happens is ideally, you want to have graphics that are either the right size or relatively close to the right size of the photo that you want to display. So if this was a little thumbnail photo that was only 100 pixels wide and 100 pixels high, even though we could display it really big, the data just isn't there. That could be the reason there. Like this one here, and by the way, you can drag this over to the other side. You see this is sharp. Over here, I could remove the image. You can also set the image height for an image, which is kind of a cool thing. So if I made this, say, 400 and tabbed out, and I applied the changes, now you'll see that it's actually showing this image is actually much taller. So I wasn't resizing the image. I was actually cropping the image. So I could make this, say, 100 in this particular case, and then I apply changes, and now we're just using that. So maybe you want to change the height with text over background, where you're changing the height of the background so that it matches better with the other thing that may be on the row with it, rather than having this one be full size and then this one being only part of the cell. Again, I don't want to get too much into the editing features here because we went through a bunch of this stuff in the page builder demo, but I want to make sure that people understand in particular the tools that are available for managing the pages. More questions?
Yes. If you update a style, does it apply to the entire page or just that section?
Styles apply to the thing that you are clicked on. So if I'm clicked on a cell, right now, you see I'm clicked on a row. The whole row is highlighted in blue. So the style applies to the row. If I click on a cell, say, I don't know if I can do it here. If I click on a cell and choose style, and let's assume I choose a background color. I don't know if this will work, but let's try background color here. Yes, you see it only applies to that cell. The way CSS works, cascading style sheet works, is that when you apply a style, it applies unless something, in effect, closer to the object that's being displayed overrides that style. So the styles cascade down and then can be overridden by anything that is actually closer to the element. So what we don't have here is a way of applying a style to an entire page. So we can't change necessarily the background color of the entire page here. That would be controlled by your site settings, much the same way as, let's see if I can find it here. Here, the submenus. You don't control the color of the submenus here because they are controlled in your site settings as to what theme you've got and what color you want menus to be and all of that. So it will always match that theme. More questions?
Yes. So when you add a custom page, there is a spot to change the browser title to have it be something different than the page name or the title that's used on the menu. And one of our attendees asked about SEO and browser tips that we might have to offer.
There really are no browser tips because things like the browser title and things like that, or metadata that you can put in as part of your site, these search engines really don't pay attention to it anymore because people are using it way too much. Really, your search engine really has to do with how many people are linking to your page, how many people are mentioning your URL. It's not a whole lot that you can do about it. You can have a really clever title or something like that that's somewhat popular, but really Google is not fooled by anybody saying, this is a really cool new page that we want you to move up in the rankings. That's not all that important. The page name here is what you want it to display on your search results. The menu text, I will call it my PBD. When I save this here, that means if I go to the control panel and I want to put this on the menu, so if I go to the website tab, go to menus, and I want to put something, say, on the public menu over here, and we add it, and then it would show up on the page. If I were to save it and then log out, we would see my PPD here, and it would launch to that page. Samantha?
Yes.
I'm going to get rid of that, that menu here. We're running short on time. Any other questions?
One of the last questions was, so you went into an old page and it used the old editing system, the advanced content editor. The question was, what do we need to do in order to upgrade all pages to the new editor? And the short answer is you don't need to do anything. All of your pages can and will use the new editor. The old editor is just for those legacy pages and the content that you had in your custom pages prior to the deployment of the new page builder tools.
All right, to be a little more specific, nothing changes on your existing pages until you decide that you want to click on edit. At that point, a new version is made of the page with today's date, and then you go edit that version. There's nothing to do, nothing actually happens until you say, I want to make changes to this page. So when you click on edit, in fact, if I just, let's do an example here. If I go to the Northwest Balloon Club here, and I go to the control panel, and I go to custom pages, and make sure I'm on the right one, Demo Club, and I search for custom pages, I'm just going to search for some page. So let's look on honorary members. If I click on this, you'll see that it just says I converted the custom page, and the date this version was created was right now. So then you go in and edit it. And then you can you'll get a version 2, a version 3, version 4, depending on how many times you click on save. So you don't have to do anything. As soon as you decide I want to edit, it creates a new version with today's date, and then you go forward from there. Now, when Samantha mentions the old editor, this isn't really the old editor. It simply says advanced editor here. It is what they call the advanced content editor, which is that set of tools that you always had before. We've rolled it over. It's still present. So you can do all the things that you could do before. You now just do it within a particular widget. And it's very, very straightforward. So with that said, Samantha, I think we can wrap it up unless there's any other questions.
No more questions.
Okay, so with that, we will wrap it up for today. We look forward to you coming to our webinars. Samantha, what are you calling the next webinar? What is the next webinar going to be about?
So the next webinar is going to be ClubExpress for membership directors. So it's sort of a big picture as a membership director. What modules best serve you and your duties as part of your club or association. So it'll touch on a lot of different items. Basically, anything that a membership director touches, we're going to talk about.
That sounds like one that I want to attend. So I hope to see you all there. Tell your friends and colleagues, and everybody stay safe. And we'll see you in the next webinar. Thanks for coming.